we're in 4-1, proportional relationships and slope. But I want to do a warm-up first to get us back to remembering what proportional relationships are and what unit rate is. So if you remember from 7th grade, a proportional relationship must go through 0, 0. And are the x's and y's going up and down the same amount? Now, this is a little bit confusing on how I wrote that. I apologize. But if I look at this, first things first, what is it going up by each time? It's going up by 1. This is going up by 1. So if I was to go back by 1 here, I would subtract 1 and I would get 0. So that's 0. If I would go back by 1 here, that would get me 1. So is that point 0, 0? No, it is not. So that means that it is not proportional. This one, okay, it's going up by 1, going up by 1. I should put a plus sign. It's going up by 1. Now this is going to go up by 2. That's okay, as long as each one of them is going up by the same amount, okay? So if I went back by 1, if I subtracted 1, I would get to 0. So I'm at 0. If I go back by 2, I'm going to be at 0. So does that go through the point 0, 0? Yes, it does. So we have a proportional relationship. Now, unit rate. Remember, for unit rate, oh, the thing is down here. When you are simplifying the fraction, there is a 1 in the denominator. So here, I have 15 miles over 3 hours. Okay, so I'm going to divide those numbers. 15 divided by 3 is 5, but you have to actually put 5 miles per hour or per 1 hour. You have to put the words also. You can't just put 5. Here, I have 4 drops per 8 minutes. So if I was to divide this, hopefully when you divide, you actually get 0.5. And then we do drops per minute. Okay, down here, it says the ratio of sugar to flour. So it wants sugar over flour. That's what it said, is constant. For every 2 cups of sugar, so 2 cups of sugar, there are 3 cups of flour. Okay? Then it says, how many cups of flour? That's what we're looking for. So the X goes there. When there are 8 cups of sugar. Okay? So I have a proportion going on here. So I'm going to multiply. I multiply these two and I get 2x. I multiply these two, I get 24. Divide by 2 on both sides, and I get x equals 12. 12 what? 12 cups of flour. Okay, so that was our warm-up. So let's look at this. It says Arches National Park and Bryce Canyon National Park are both located in Utah. Each park charges an entrance fee that is valid for 7 days. The entrance fee for Arches National Park is $25 per vehicle. So if I did this first one and I did Arches and I put number of vehicles and I have cost. If I have 0 vehicles, it's going to cost 0 amount of money. If I have 1 vehicle, it's going to cost me 25. If I have 2 vehicles, it's going to cost me 50. 3, it's going to cost me 75. Okay. The entrance fee for Bryce Canyon National Park, so Bryce, is from the equation y equals 30x, where y is the total cost and x is the number of vehicles. So if I put in 0, y equals 30 times 0. That would get me 0. If I put in 1, y equals 30 times 1. That would be 30. If I put in 2, that would be 30 times 2. That would be 60. If I put in 3, that would be y equals 30 times 3, which is 90. How can you determine which park has the greater cost per vehicle? Because this one says its unit rate is $25 per car, and this one says $30 per car. We know that Bryce costs more money. Cost more per car by $5. Okay, so next, how can you describe how one quantity changes in relation to another quantity? So I look at this. Starting off, it says, Marcus can download 2 songs from the internet each minute. So at 0 minutes, he doesn't have any songs. At 1 minute, he can do 2 songs, so that's 2. 1 more minute, he's got 4 songs. 1 more, he's got 6 songs. And then he has 8 songs. Okay, it seems to double each time. So now we're going to graph this. So I have 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 6, 4, 8. Okay, how much does y change by? So if I'm looking at the y's, how much does it change by right here? How much does it go up by? It went up by 2. How much does the x change by? The x changed by 1. When we're talking about x and y, this was talking about the number of minutes, and this was talking about the number of songs. So you can get 2 songs every minute. So I can get 2 songs every 1 minute. Okay, awesome. Now we're going to go back to our lesson and go over a few things. So in order for to be a proportional relationship, 2 quantities are proportional if they have constant ratio or unit rate. The graph of the proportional relationship is a straight line, and it must go through the origin. Remember that the origin is the point 0, 0. Okay? And anytime you have a straight line of a graph, this is a linear relationship. Okay? If I look at this, a linear relationship is proportional. See, it tells you right there. When the ratio of y to x is constant m. Goes through the point 0, 0. Goes through the point 0, 0. If I was to plug this in and I plugged in 0 for x, 0 times 3 is 0. Okay, it goes through the point 0, 0. So here we go. This equation right here is a linear equation. Okay, that means it is a straight line. The solutions of a linear equation consist of 2 numbers. The x goes first, the y goes second, and it makes the equation true. The rate of change is a rate that describes how one quantity changes in relation to another quantity. So we just did this a second ago on the Explore. It says the time to download songs is shown in the table. As the number of songs increases by 2, so each time it goes up by 2, the minutes go up by 1. The unit rate is 2 songs per minute. Okay. In a proportional relationship, the unit rate is the slope. Slope is the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. So if I come over here, this right here that I just drew is how we say change. So I'm going to do the change in y over the change in x. So I look at the change of y. So from this point right here, up. How far up did it go? It went up 1, it went up 2. So if you're like, huh? Well, look at these right here. We'll look at the y values. 6 and you subtract 4. When I subtract 6 and 4, I get 2. Isn't that the same number right there? Then I'm going to look at my x values. Well, how far over did I go? I went over 1 time. So let's look at these x values. 3 minus 2 is 1. So my slope, my unit rate, these right here are 2. But 2 what? Okay? We can't just have just a random number because this has information over here. So the change in y, oh, I should have done that in purple. The change in y is talking about the number of songs. So that means 2 songs per. And then I look down here, it says minute, per minute. Okay, so if I'm interpreting my slope, I would say 2 songs per minute. Okay, so without even reading, we're going to come over here and we're looking at this. Not even going to read. We're going to look for the change of y over the change of x. Actually, I want to do this first. So I want to know from this point to this point, how far up did they go? So I look at my y values and I say 30 minus 15, or you can just look at the pretty picture and see that that's what it's doing. Okay, then I'm going across. So now I'm looking at the x values. So now I'm looking at these. 2 minus 1. When I do that, the change in y over the change of x is equal to 15 over 1. But 15 what? It's talking about the change in y. So I'm going to look right here. It says savings. It's talking about money. Then when we talk about the change in x, I come down here. It says number of weeks. $15 per 1 week. So now let's look and see what this is actually asking about. Graph shows the amount of money Ava saved over several weeks. Find and interpret the slope, then find the unit rate and the slope to compare it. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Ava saved $15 per week. Now it's asking for the unit rate. Okay, if I'm looking at, trying to get the eraser here. If I'm looking at this, right here, anytime the x value is 1 for proportional relationships, you would get the unit rate right there, as long as it's a proportional relationship. Oh, I should have said the slope and unit rate are the same. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing here. The change in y over the change in x. And just so that I'm showing it, it doesn't have to be the exact same points. I may want to do this point to this point. Oh, I should have done this a different color. Okay, so I'm still going to say, what do I go up by? How far is it from here up to here? So I'm going from 48 minus 24. Okay, I used these two numbers. Then for my x's, I'm going to use these two numbers. How far over do I go? 4 and 2. When I subtract these, I get 24 over 2, which means that is 12. 12 what? Number of inches per feet. 12 inches per foot. Okay, so I look over here, down here. 12 inches per foot. The slope of the line is 12 over 1, which means there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Well, look at that. Came up with letter A automatically. Okay, so now let's look at this one. Okay, so now okay, the distance y in miles that a certain cyclist can ride and the time x in the hours are a proportional relationship. So if it's proportional relationship, we already know it's 0, 0. Can be represented by y equals 12x. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 1. If I do that, I get 12. If I plug in 2, I get 24. Okay, so I'm going to graph 0, 0, 112, 224. Okay. Find and interpret the slope. Now, I could do it one of two ways. I could come up here and say, what is this going up by? It's going up by 12. It's going up by 12. This is going up by 1, going up by 1. So I take the change in y, which is 12, over the change in x, which is 1. So that means my slope is 12. 12 what? Miles per hour. Or I could have come to the graph and also done it. So how far up did it go? It went up 12. So the change in y is 12. Oh, I did not mean to do that. 12. How far over did it go? The change in x is 1. So again, 12. But it's 12 miles per hour. Okay. So we do the same thing. Now some people get stuck because they're not sure what to do when all they see is a graph. Well, if you're given an equation, you always want to just make a t-chart. So if I have y equals 200x, plug in 0. 200 times 0 is 0. Plug in 1. 200 times 1, is 200. Plug in 2. That would get me 400. Plug in 3. That would get me 600. Now, mind you, look at this. It says in hundreds. So these numbers are in hundreds already. So 0, 0, 1, 200, 2, 400, 3, 600, 4, 800, on and on. Okay, so determine the slope. So I could do it over here. This goes up by 200, goes up by 200, goes up by 200, goes up by 1, up by 1, up by 1. So I would get 200 over 1, or, seriously, I could do this. Remember, this is in hundreds, though. So the change in y would be, I did it again. Well, first of all, why am I writing in that? Change in y over the change in x. I would get 200, and then I come across, and I would get over 1. Or, if you haven't figured it out yet, isn't it just this number right here? So, 200 honeybee beats its wings 200 times per second. Okay. Now, here we go. It says an online music store charges $3.75 for purchasing 3 songs. Okay, so when we look at this right here, and I want to make this a unit rate, I would do $3.75 divided by 3. When I do that, I get $1.25. Well, it's talking about money and songs, right? So if I just got 125, it's $1.25 per song. I just got the unit rate. Well, guess what that also is? That's also our slope. So if I did 2 songs, oops, it says $1.25 per song. 2 songs, that's $2.50. $3 is $3.75 because it just said that. And 4 songs is going to be $5. Okay, so 1 is 125, so it's halfway in between here. 2 songs is $2.50. 3 songs is $3.75. Oops, I'm off 1. Sorry, I was off. Oh no, that's what. 1 is 125. 2 is $2.50. There we go. 3 is $3.75, and 4 is 5. And it's proportional, so it goes through 0, 0. And there you have it. Now, if I'm going to find my slope again, I'm going to go up, and I'm going to go over. If you need remembering, that's 125. So how much did this go up? It went up 1.25. It went over 1. So my slope, again, is $1.25 per song. Awesome. Okay, so now we're doing a manatee can swim an average of 10 miles every 2 hours. Assume the distance in y in miles is proportional to the number of hours x the manatee can swim. So you could just go straight for this. So it's proportional, so it goes through 0, 0. And at 2 hours, it's 10. And you could draw a line. And you could be finished with that part. And you could find the slope with it. Oops. How far up did it go? So the change in y, the change in x, it went up 10. And how far did it go over? It went over 2. So that equals 5. What you could also do is, if you're not as comfortable with that, you can say this is time and this is miles. And at 0, 0, at 2 hours, you can go 10 miles. So that means 1 mile would be 5. And then you could draw a graph. You could then say this went up by 5, this went up by 5, this went up by 1, but it would still be the manatee swam 5 miles in 1 hour. I didn't put 1. Okay. So you can use tables, you can use words, graphs, equations to represent slope or to represent proportional relationships. Okay? Just remember that the slope is in front of the x. Okay. So here it tells you directly proportional. Tells you y equals something x. It starts at 0, 0. It starts at 0, 0. So here we go. Says the distance y in miles that can be covered by a rabbit in x hours can be represented by this equation. Now, before I go into anything else, the distance that can be covered by the grizzly bear is shown on the graph. So, find the speed of the rabbit. You just look at the number in front of the x. 35 miles per hour. For the grizzly bear, however, we have to look at how much did it go up. It went up 30. How far did it go over? It went over 1. So 30 over 1. So down here we have 30 over 1, which is 30 miles per hour. Also, you can look right here. As long as it's proportional. Okay. Choose any 2 points on the line. So we could have done any 2 points. I could have picked, instead of picking the 2 that I did, sorry, it's being obnoxious, sorry about that. I could have picked these 2 points. So from here to here, how far up did it go? It went from 0 up to 60. That's 60. It went over from 1 over to 2. That is 30, still 30 miles per hour. Okay, I already did all of that. Awesome. So we're going to come here. Cat heart rate. The equation y equals 1.5x represents the relationship between the number of heartbeats y and the time in seconds for a dog. So this is for a dog. Okay. That's the rate for a dog. 1.5 heartbeats per second. Oh, what did I just spell? Second. I think I was thinking dog. So I have to come over here. So from here to here, how much did it go up? It went up 2. Look at that. It went up 2. It went up 2. How far over did it go? It went over 1. So 2 over 1. Or I could have picked these 2 points. If I picked those 2 points and I did change in y over change in x, 8 minus 4, because I take these numbers and I subtract them, over, and then I take these 2 numbers, 4 minus 2, change in y over the change in x equals 4 over 2, which is equal to 2. So for a cat, cat has, why did I put has twice? 2 heartbeats per second. Okay, and it says which animal has the faster heartbeat? The cat. By 0.5 beats, I can't spell, beats per second. Awesome. So now the cost Y of computer repairs computer access for X hours is shown in the table. Okay, so if I'm talking about computer access, that's right here. So let's look at how much it is. It's going up by 25. It's going up by $25 per 1 hour. So for computer access, it is $25 per hour. Then it says, we just found that, $25 per hour. Then it says Marco Repair charges $23.50 per hour. Okay, so Marco Repair is less than the rate of the repairs for computer access. Since $23.50 is less than $25, Marco Repair has the lower repair cost. Annie's current earnings is shown in the table. She was offered a new job, so the new job is $7.95 per hour. That's her new job. We need her old job. We need to figure out what that is. So these are going up by 1, so we're good with this. So how much does this go up by? It goes up by $7.25. Goes up by $7.25. Goes up by $7.25. So she's currently making $7.25 per hour. Which job pays the more per hour? The new job pays more by 70 cents per hour.